The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, this is another episode of the ModernJeeper Show with me, Matson from MetalCloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and Rockstar Jeep Girl, Jessy.
What's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm cold.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, there happens to be some guests that are on our show that aren't cold because they've already were bragging about where they were.
Right.
This is our annual roundup show. It's a 2022 roundup on to 2023. I actually have a hard time saying 2023. I still write 2022.
Yeah,
I've done that
absolutely.
I'll
still write 2022 for the next 6 months.
That's great. Well, that's when you still have the 2022 calendar up on the wall.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. We finally started shipping the 2023 calendar. We're gonna figure that one out. It just started shipping last week. Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, it's cold here. We just got into the St. George hurricane area for winter 4x4 jamboree, and as we were pulling into town, I actually got a call from our friend Val Douglas, and we had left the CTI trailer and Jesse's Jeep at her house. She said, "Yeah, you may want to come get it tomorrow because the mud is pretty bad." So, yeah, it's wet here. It's cold. It's going to be a good week though. It's always different here every year.
Every year. Well, that's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. It's wet. It's cold. It's muddy as all heck, but sure, it'll be fine. Come on out. Join us.
Say it's the coldest year.
Yeah, it's the coldest year, I think.
Yeah.
But no snow. There is no snow.
Oh, there's snow around us. Yeah, we're looking at snow all around us. But
not on the ground where you need to have it. It's just wet and muddy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have some great guests on the show, and actually went back because each one of these guests has been on our show. In fact, Chris is the only one who's been on the show once. And that was at Easter Jeep Safari last year. So that was episode 161. So if you want to know more about Chris, go back to that show. Greg has been on the show twice, even though he's on the show once, but he was also on a flashback episode, which was one of those episodes we recorded years ago at Off-Road Expo, and then threw it up as a flashback episode. And of course, he's with Rugged Radios, owner, founder, and head guru at Rugged Radios. And then Ian Johnson, who has also been on the show. He's been on the show 3 times. First, when it was just about him. Second was a flashback episode because he too came over to the table and did a little 30-minute podcast with me way back when at Off-Road Expo. And then episode 153, which was a recap sort of King of the Hammers that year.
That's right.
And for last year. So, which Ian, you're going to be out at King of the Hammers again in a week or 2?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just got the email the other day, so I'll be back on the mic for another year.
What day do you arrive?
Well, I got to break it up this year because I have to go to a meeting midweek. So I'll get there. I'll do the Monday, Tuesday announcing, and then I have to leave for Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'll be back for Friday, Saturday for the 2 big races.
Oh, wow. And then, Greg, your team sets up, but you got to be setting up the week before, right?
Yeah, I think we're out there 2 weeks. So we have a team that goes out there. I may not be out there much. So if I go, I'm just going to go to the Class 11 race, Class 11 event. I'll be there for 2 days and I'll be home. But my entire team of probably 25 will be out there for 2 full weeks.
What do you take? You have like 50 by 80 space now. I mean, you have a whole giant corner of the place, right?
You know what? Just navigating this year and better service and things like that. We have, I don't know, 3 or 4 vending trailers that'll be there. So we have full setup inside, full setup outside. It's so that way we can, handle all the people. And, it's not just about the racers, about the individuals that go there. So it'll be fun to talk a little bit about business on how we're navigating business this year and how it's changing.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, Greg and I had a great conversation last week about some things that we were both discussing, and it is interesting. It is interesting where this industry is going, or where you have to go in this modern age.
And I'm writing down 2023 already, guys. I'm sorry, I've been doing it since January 1st because I move forward. I don't go back. I just keep moving forward. So start writing 2023.
Listen. Amongst all of us, I'm sorry, Greg can kick all of our asses. He's half blind, and he'd still kick all of our asses at once. I mean, we could all go at once, and he'd kick our asses.
No doubt.
So
That is a true statement. So
I am actually heading out for a special project that's happening on Saturday. I've got to go down there for just a day. So I'm literally driving down Friday night after a father-daughter dance that I need to go to. I'm going to get in, drive down Friday night, be there all day Saturday, and head out Saturday night back home. So, but I need to be there that Saturday. And that's the day, that's the 4th, I think. It's when they're doing the trophy truck races. So I got to go down, but that's all. That's enough for me. It's been a long time. How about Chris? Do you go out to KOH, or has it been a long time? What was the last time you were out there?
I was out there 2 years ago. Last year I was in Panama. Oh, let's say 2 years ago. No, I was in Panama 2 years ago. I think I was out there last year. You know, I actually go back to KOH, back to the not the OG event, but the following event that year. I covered it, I think, for Four Wheeler, one of the mags, and when it was the Dave and Jeff show.
Right.
And then did all the media for Emily when she came in to help with Emily Miller when she came in to help with promoting the event. And it's just, KOH is amazing. It has been so incredible. I remember when there were like 4,000 people on the lake bed, and David was just like, Jeff was there, and it was like, oh my gosh, I think we've got 5,000 people out here. It's incredible. and like none of us had any idea where that event was going to go.
And it was still a shit show back then.
Well,
we showed it for the first time in 2010, and it was insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is all about like what we're doing now, what we got going on in the past. I mean, so starting with you, Chris, what was your 2022 like, and just in general, like what were the big things that happened for you for 2022?
You know, my life has been blessed. I've been really lucky. Every year is great. I mean, there's a few hiccups here and there. 2022 was another good one. You know, things are changing, in the industry. I think we're all aware of that, and that's just kind of part of the world. But at 22 was good. I mean, I do a lot of commercial photography for auto manufacturers, and that was good. It was definitely came back from the COVID years. Had a couple of projects, raced with Mark McMillan in the Nora Mexican 1000, and in McAdoo, which was like his championship car from the early 80s, and that was epic. Yeah, so just a lot of my normal type things. Moab's always good. Didn't have any big international projects this year or last year. It was just coming out of COVID and hadn't put them together, but we are kind of looking at possibly doing another Australia expedition. So we'll see.
Chris got to ride with me in Rockstar in Moab,
and that was a highlight. I'm telling you, that was amazing. I was like, yes.
Are you still seeing? So how is the international community on COVID? Are they kind of the way we are, or are they still more cautious, or how's that gameplay?
Yeah, it depends on where you are. Obviously, Europe is first world. If you get into some of the third world countries, like I've got a vehicle I keep down in South America. It's in Uruguay right now. They were much slower. Actually, was down there last year in January to deal with paperwork and import permits. And they're kind of in the middle of following the first world from a COVID standpoint. But then I've also been working on some projects in Colombia and Panama over the last 6 years. They are very slow, especially in the more remote areas. So they were much slower. And then the remote area is much more resistant to getting vaccinated. So everything's still a little bit in flux, but they're coming out of it. So definitely a positive element. Had a chance to go to Malaysia in December, and I ended up passing on that trip. I was going to be covering an event. It didn't have anything to do with COVID, but I had been talking to the promoter, and he said that they're getting up to speed with vaccinations and reduced infection rate. So it's been a strange couple of years. I was in Mexico guiding a trip for the Sonora Rally when everything kind of went down in 2020, and we were down towards Hermosillo, coming back up the coast, and we just kept getting texts, radio reports, like they're closing the border Friday night. You need to get out. You need to cross that border. So really crazy couple of years.
By the way, a decision was made that every time I take a drink, like all you guys watching our show and listening, every time, or pretty much watching, because I guess you can't really hear me if I'm not slurping, right? So should I slurp more so they can hear me? But
Yeah,
everybody watching this has to like every time I take a drink, maybe Corey will just say drink, and then everybody has to like, yeah, because I've got 2 bottles of Hint, I've got a bubbly, caffeinated bubbly, I've got a hot coffee. I mean, I just go the whole time.
So I go the healthy route, the volcanic water, mineral water. So it's healthy,
volcanic
it's
mineral water.
Volcanic water from Hawaii. I highly recommend it. Hydrates you better. It's healthier. So Matson,
I was told that we're supposed to be drinking smart water.
So we can be smart.
We definitely need smart something.
I think we need
Great. So you guys, speaking of Greg, I mean, you're next to my lineup here. One, I'll tell you, you have a conversation with Greg, you have a 5-minute conversation with Greg, you already start feeling like you need to work harder to be better, because that's what Greg does. He works harder every single day to be better at whatever he's doing. I mentioned to him when I was in a conversation with him Friday, like, yeah, my wife does CrossFit. I'm not really into CrossFit. I don't really like it as much. And Greg's response was, I love doing the things I don't like. I'm like, damn it. But great. So how was your 2022 for your business, for you personally? How did you see it compared to 21? How did it overall go for you?
So we're definitely in an interesting time, and the thing is, this is, like I tell everybody, there's a little saying that I say all the time: be better today than you were yesterday. Get out of your comfort zone. I mean, what you're comfortable. As soon as you think you're comfortable in business, that's a bad place to be in. I think I push myself out of that comfort zone every second. So every year is different. Every year's changed. We had a time right now when just the government is sending out money. Okay. When you got COVID money is going and people are just buying to buy. So you're looking at buying habits of customers that are they were just spending money. They weren't thinking about the future. I'm getting all this money. You had a lot of employees that were working from home, collecting great paychecks, working from home, doing nothing, and online buying habits changed. Dealer habits have radically changed. We just came out of this thing like in the UTV market that dealers didn't have any vehicles. Well, how are you going to sell product to people? Because nobody's walking in the dealerships. People are online and they're buying. So it's really been a different time. And, 2020, really good. 2021, really good. 2022, good. But, what's interesting is you have to look at technology. You have to look at things that you're doing. So how are you, if you're not focusing on your business, on how to be better, you're going to get passed up, because the next guy like me, I'm going to pass you up because I'm already thinking, I'm already moving, looking at buying habits of your customer, looking at how many times you retarget your customer before he gets burned out, because you don't want to unsubscribe, because your list is everything, changing your technique, how you deal with your dealers. It's interesting where you look at one area can be way up and the other area can be down. Why is it down? Figuring that out, staying on the gas. I mean, I say I sleep very little. It's because, I love what I do and I live it every second. I just had somebody that just posted something, just this morning. One of my friends that's in business that does a lot of events and has a company, and it was about your business and spending time with your family. Okay. It's more important to spend time with your family. It's more important to travel. It's more important things. It's not just your business you have. And I'm like, I couldn't disagree more with that statement. I'm fortunate enough that I own a business. I've created a business that started from my garage, but on the other hand, I've involved my family in it. Some of the greatest rewarding things that I've done is having my son work side by side with me, because what it's also doing is when I go out and do these things and I'm traveling to it, it's showing him something different. I'm preparing him to pass the torch along. I'm not just taking a big vacation with him, because I'm like, man, hey, I know you want to take your vacations, you want to do all this stuff. Well, what about 2023? We're in this critical time of navigation, critical time that our economy is falling. But every time an economy falls, there's opportunity. I looked at my great grandfather. So he was an aerial photographer. He invented all the aerial photography equipment, the plates that mapped our country. And when the Depression hit, he excelled and did amazingly well during the Depression. But he looked for opportunity and he grabbed a hold of opportunity. So, discussing now the point of time that we're in and how are we going to grab opportunity. Another thing too is one thing I love is I want to see success and opportunity with everyone. Okay. I hate the people that they want success for themselves. For me, I'm about sharing information. So doing something like this is about sharing, because I'm hoping I'm going to influence that next person. But absolutely, we'll get into some nuts and bolts of 2023. 2022 is good. Was 2022 as good as 21? Maybe not as good, but it was good and bad in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It was really good in some areas. I got to tell you, my aviation business up bigger than ever. Okay. When you have dealers that are down because there's no cars available, my aviation business is up. Do you know right now aviation is at the highest point it's ever been in the history of aviation? Because
so what it comes down to is basically people want to know to fly so they can get the heck out of here now and get away from it. Can't be spending on the roads anymore. Turns out the zombie apocalypse is going to be on the ground.
Exactly.
So if you can fly, you can get away from it.
But it's really interesting when you start diving into, where we're at in the economy. And once you start finding the opportunities that you can grab a hold of, it's unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
The only limiting factor you have right now is yourself.
Yep.
Yes. My wife reminds me every single day. It's something like about get off your ass or something like that. I don't know. Greg, so we'll talk more about 23 and what's happening. Ian, obviously you are very active in multimedia, and we just lost Corey and Jessy. That's okay. Big C in there. I could put a face right there in post-production. You're very involved in multimedia. Hey, they're back.
Let's get this straight. That Ian is just the pretty face.
oh, there's a debate for you. Yeah. First pretty face. Yeah. Ian, man, you're heavily involved in multimedia. You've done a lot. You have your own thing. We've obviously talked a lot about that on this show. What did you see in 2022 as far as how that changed, not just in your world, but how that changed overall, just in media consumption?
Well, media consumption changed in 2020. It started in 2020 where it just hockey sticked like nobody's business, right? Because everyone had nothing to do but consume media. And so we saw everything just basically exponentially expand in 2020. And it didn't stop in 21 and it's not stopping in 22. The biggest thing that we're seeing right now is, and we've been watching it and we've been waiting for it. And it's the way I describe it is I say, for most of our life in the automotive aftermarket, there's a wall between a parts manufacturer and some type of speaking to their customers. So you have for years it was the wall of, okay, I need to buy advertising inside a magazine, or I need to buy advertising on television shows or in newspapers or something. So the media was basically a wall between you and your end user of the product. And we've slowly seen that wall be knocked down. And the biggest thing that we've seen in 22 is some companies that we never would have considered what we would call a media company have started to become media companies. So companies like eBay Motors, Haggerty, Bring a Trailer, all these companies that for years, maybe they had their main moneymaker was something else. Like eBay Motors' main revenue generator is not media, it's selling parts. But what we see now is we see them turning around and saying, you know what, we're going to make TV shows or videos that are going to be used to promote the parts that we sell. Onyx Off-Road's another big one that's coming into the space. We're seeing companies that you never would have thought call themselves media companies have realized how important owning your own content is, how important owning the message of your brand is. And nowadays, the only way to do that is to create your own content. So we saw the first few sort of like bricks of that wall start to fall in 22. And based on the conversations that we've just had in the past month, I think the floodgates are going to open from people who are like, you know what? I'm not buying advertising through Motor Trend or Discovery or whoever. I'm just going to make my own content, and I'm going to learn how to use it to promote my own products.
Well, that is so true, and we've been having these conversations about it, and that's one of the reasons we started Modern Jeeper was to be able to have that. Oh, we lost Corey and Jesse. Let's see, they'll be popping back here in a second. Hotel. Everybody else has got good internet. Even Ian in his car has got better internet than Corey and Jesse in the hotel.
than the Sand Hollow Hotel.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, so Chris, on that note, media, right? Like you are definitely, Ian's been in front of the boob tube for a long time, but you're old school media, and photography, photojournalism. I mean, how have you seen that change? How has that evolved in 2022? And how did you see that game be different for you?
Yeah, Ian's, you've got an excellent point, and that it's been a transition actually over the last 10 or 15 years through the digital era. Websites, a lot of more people are heading to websites. Companies didn't want to, or weren't willing to, or didn't need to spend as much money on a website. So, a lot of the print magazines have gone away. I think we all are aware of that. But it's not just in the United States, because a large chunk of my business is international syndication. So, if I'm covering KOH, I'm, back 10 years ago, I'm sending it out to maybe 12 or 13, 15 different publications around the world. Same thing. There's automotive publications in Germany, Italy, South Africa, Malaysia, you name it. And, they were all print magazines, and then they started gaining a digital presence. And those have, slowly gone away. So the whole idea from print is transitioning. That's a whole nother topic for another, maybe another day. But print, in my opinion, will still be here, but it's going to be a completely different format than what we've seen in the past. It is going to be, the high quality publications that are perfect bound, cardstock cover, high quality content that you're probably not going to get anywhere else, unique content. And for subscribers that are willing to pay 50 or 60 bucks a year for a subscription rather than 10 bucks a year. The people that really like to grab that tangible publication, put it in their hand, have a cup of coffee, and go ahead, jump in.
It sounds like a lot like they're still lovers of vinyl, right? And you can still get vinyl records. They cost
absolutely
more versus a guy who just gets CD or a digital download. But there's always going to be those that want that. In fact, we're working on a catalog because we've gotten very digital. Corey actually saw some of the digital catalog stuff that we're doing. And so our next catalog publication this year is going to be a beautiful coffee table type book rather than trying to just produce another perfect bound throwaway. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the game I think we're seeing. So for Greg, how about you for not only on where are you focusing your advertising dollars when it comes to media and publications? And have you guys started developing your own channel?
So Ian is right on so many levels with this. And the thing is this, that we're looking at, so I'm a Facebook guy as far as I'm on Facebook, the way of my keeping in touch with friends and everything. And I've quickly become not a Facebook guy. Okay. Social media, I think, is falling faster than anything. When we were focusing tons of attention into Facebook and Instagram and everything else, we're having a total 180 of YouTube, creating content, Google marketing. Okay. I view Amazon, I view eBay, that we do a lot of business on both of those, millions and millions and millions of dollars on both platforms. I view those as search engines. Okay. I'm working on keywords. It's all about, you got to be on the front page. How do you fight for the top page and not just sponsor it, spend tons of money? Because you could throw a lot of money at stuff and you can make money doing that, but it's going to cost you a lot of money to do it. You know, if you don't want to think, throw money at it. Okay. And so I view all these things as search engines. Okay. That's how I'm viewing it. And how do I get in front of the customer? Definitely content, filming your content, YouTube. Oh man, YouTube. I think YouTube is a way to go in good quality content. And you know what? You never know. You have that good quality content. It just does okay. Yet you have that just cell phone content that was just, so my biggest viewed video is me crashing my Trizinger 3-wheeler.
Oh yeah.
On the beach. I'm on my custom Trizinger. I'm doing a wheelie and I go over backwards, bite it, and that's my most viewed video. I am just insta famous right then.
Yeah.
But but the question is, does it convert? Does that pull viewers? I had a situation last year where we had a huge spike in website visits and huge spike in Amazon visits. It was a huge spike, and we couldn't figure out what happened. And it turned out it was a podcast I was on. And it wasn't because the podcast itself, wasn't because I made the podcast so popular, but there was just an analytics thing that all of a sudden that podcast got a lot of views that particular month. I'm sure it wasn't me, but but that translated to a lot of views. Now, did that translate into a lot of conversions?
Okay,
not necessarily, but that's the big question. Like, are you shooting for conversions or are you shooting for eyeballs?
Well, hold on a second. There's a couple things. Okay. You need content about your product, absolutely, because right now you look at a website, you look at Amazon, you look at a listing that has something, terrible pictures, very little description. You have a few seconds for somebody to look at that and then want that product. So you have to have good quality content, good pictures, good call outs on it, good bullet points, good descriptions, because they're going to make a decision quickly. But on the other hand, you need that content that humanizes you. Okay. You need that content that, because you know what, the more things that I put out with my personality, people want to buy from who they know or who they think they know. Okay. My personality that I put out on my videos is who I am. Okay. Ian, I've been watching you for years. You know that I met you a long time ago. The guy that you are when you're filming is the guy that you are in person. And that's a big thing. That's a big selling point, because people want to buy from who they know. So you have to have that human factor in it. You know, if you're
from who they know and who they like.
Yeah.
People want to do business with people they like.
Yeah. If you're
I think
a machine,
I think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to look at it a couple ways also, Matson. I think to Greg's point, the humanizing of it, I think that's important. And I think that's part of the game. And so you have to look at your content. The way I describe to people is there's two ways. Think of it as like there's the this old house content, and then there is the soap opera content. So the soap opera content is the big fat end of the funnel, right? And that's just everybody wants to watch it and they're interested. The soap opera content on YouTube is Whistling Diesel. Whether you like him or hate him, there's millions of people who watch him wreck stuff. But like Matson said, does it convert? Probably not. Does it drive brand recognition? Yes. But if you have that content coupled with a this old house type content, like Greg describing what is the difference between GMRS and VHS, which one do you need? Like Greg said, he's looking at them all like search engines, which is what you have to do, because that's what YouTube is. It's the second largest search engine that's owned by the largest search engine. So you have to play that game. But if you have that soap opera humanizing Greg wiped out in a 3-wheeler content that gets just brand recognition, then when they're on YouTube and they're looking for, oh, I want to know the difference between Radio X and Radio Y, and Greg pops up, they're like, oh, wait, yeah, I saw him. I recognize that brand. And then they'll drill down into that super niche how-to stuff, which is what you also have to have. You have to have both ends of the spectrum.
Well, and it's interesting as we spend a lot of time on the road, of course, and traveling to all these events. And this year, I think we've had more requests for people wanting our list, kind of our playbook, going, hey, where are you guys going? Because that's where we want to be. It's funny how that kind of gains, we have this reputation of we're not going to waste our time and go to places that aren't going to give us anything in return. But people always ask us, how is it that you're able to travel the country and you don't and nobody pays any money to get their Jeep and get it on the CTI trailer and have us spend 15 minutes with a customer going through their Jeep for free. It doesn't make sense, but it is part of that recognition, which you guys are all talking about. It's that whole, hey, wait, that's that guy that helped us, or I know that brand, I saw them somewhere. Oh yeah, that's right, that was that trailer. And that's what Matson and the guys at MetalCloak had done way back when. And there are some shows that are, I mean, it's just interesting. It's becoming, I think people are wanting to get outside. They're wanting to go wheeling. They want to talk to somebody. So maybe the shows are going to start to, we've already got a few anchor shows that are really, really big. And I think those shows are going to stay that way. I don't think that people, I do think there's a point where the show gets too big and it just becomes overwhelming and people don't want to deal with that many people. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's definitely evolving as we go through, when nobody could go anywhere in 2020 and nobody could get out and do the things they wanted to do. Now they are.
So it's funny you bring up events. So Rugged, we do 92 events a year. Okay, 2023, that's probably going up to 135. I've got a full team in Texas now that are going to hit the other side of things. So we have 5 vending trailers in Texas now. So nice. We do a lot of events. Okay, but the thing is this: you got to be careful when, say, a viewer, a company is listening to this and saying, "Okay, I have companies all the time. I'm going to do like Rugged and hit these events." Okay, I started the events by using them as customer service, sales support, and show the outstanding customer service. So customers went over and said, man, I'm going to buy from Rugged, and they're going to tell their friends because they have incredible service. Okay. But on the other hand, there's another reason why we do this that I stress to the team more than anything is the information they bring back from the event. When I go to an event, I do some events. I've had some family issues, this past year that I couldn't go to some. I lost my dad in August. My mom, I'm taking care of her now. And so I have to be with it. But I make sure, like I send my son, okay, and he knows the protocols, what I got to learn. Because it's interesting in business. I'm going to tell anybody in business, top down, you have to know your business. You've got to understand your customer. You got to be ground level with your people. Okay. The travel team, sometimes there's animosity with travel team with the rest of the company. Okay. But you can learn so much from the travel team because they're in front of the customer. They're seeing what the issues are, what the problems and what their likes and what their dislikes are. So it's so important coming back from that event and knowing and getting upper management to events. Okay. Letting them work, letting them get out there. For one, it humanizes the person, the upper management with the rest of the company. But like right now, you have to be learning every single opportunity you have to learn. You have to learn. So when you're at that event, you got to go through. I'm going to spend only a couple days at King of the Hammers because I have to for family reasons, but I'm going to have my son there and he knows what we're looking for, what our customer is, how is our customer reacting to things? How is he installing things? How do you make a product better? So you have to be on the lookout for every improvement every second. When you get back to media, man, I just can't stress that stuff. The one thing is Ian has done the best job as facial recognition, personality. He's
hair recognition.
Heck, can you miss with the hair?
It's the hair.
But the thing is this is, if you listen to how he gets his point across, like all the years of the television shows and everything else in the products, I got to say in personalities today, it's hard to beat what he's done, over the years and how he presented. You go back and look at those old shows and oh my God, even the ones from the beginning were really, really on point. And it's interesting kind of bringing back some of that old school feel to it. Sometimes we're so in a rush that we rush through things, or social media is so fast. Well, it's interesting. Yep. We find that people are wanting to slow down and really understand.
You'll see the popularity of long form content is really growing because of
Well,
that.
you need that quick content. You need that. What is the thing that's going to draw them in? So you have to plan your content, okay? Because you have, say, I know the 15-second shorts is where it's at right now. That you do the 15-second short that you have to connect with them. So we're like 12 seconds. You got to connect right then with them for them want to listen to the rest of it. Then it rolls into your long format, but you have that time when the long format gets too long and you lose your customer. I see so many monotone things. I see so many. I try to do that one take, start it, stop it, and be done with it. Give you all the information quickly, and then direct you to something that if you want to come to our website, you want to come to our website. One other big thing, get back to humanizing your company. Put your phone number on the website. Put your phone number on every page on the
It's okay to call us.
Come on,
the email signature.
Okay. It's okay. You know what? Our big promotion right now is it's okay to call us. We're here for you. Okay.
So,
we're automating everything down to a point that you look at companies, don't call us. We want an automated system to go through, and just buy online. We're gonna eliminate the staff. We're gonna have shipping people, and that's it. Trust us, buy our product.
Well, we're all going to go OpenAI soon. I mean, it's just going to be like an automated voice thing, Chat GPT with automated voice. Yeah.
Nope. So
I'm even experimenting. I'm going to create a blog that's just weekly conversations with OpenAI.
Yeah.
I want to jump in on talk about something you referenced, but it's brand recognition. So Ian and I met probably 20 years ago at Wyotech up in Northern California. He was doing a shoot with Jessy, and didn't know him, didn't see him for another, I don't know, year or so, but I remembered the guy because his look is his brand. His look, the way he interacts with everybody, the way he is on camera, the way he is behind, off camera. So it's a branding thing. And so whether it's what you've done at Rugged or other companies that have been out there hyperactively in front of people and personalizing their business, branding their business through through their identity. I mean, I think it's cool. And people recognize me because of my hat. They're like, oh, yeah, that's the guy with the funky hat, safari hat. He thinks he's Indiana Jones.
And the wrinkled shirt.
But you are Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So it's interesting to say that. Now, talking about media, and we've been talking about kind of what 2022 was, but what do you see, Chris, for instance, where do you see your media focus, or do you see new opportunities for you in 2023? And what are your big goals in 2023 for exploring different media opportunities, not just in photography, photojournalism, what you're doing, but do you see a transition happening for you in 2023?
I do. And it's pretty exciting. I mean, obviously video is where it's at. YouTube, we referenced that, and then started a little project with Rick Payway and Mike Harrington, and a couple of the media guys. This little thing called Gone Jeeping, which we all have our own industries and businesses going on.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting thing because you all are doing your own little thing, but then you've come together this kind of dynamic like superhero team, right? This legion of friends, the superheroes, come together with this Gone Jeeping crew. It's pretty amazing.
It's fun. So it's like I'll Jeep all the time. People that have known me for a long time will say, God, Caller, you're a poser because we know you started in Toyotas, and I still have Toyotas. Yeah, but I've also got I've also got a selection of Jeeps. But it's a fun thing. So my thing is that I really enjoyed what I've been doing, for the last 20, 25 years. And I've kind of made my niche doing expedition projects. I do the magazine work and the commercial photography, but my thing is setting up, some kind of really interesting project every year. And so we've had a couple in the works. Obviously, COVID shut us down for a couple of years on things, but we did the East-West Australia expedition in 2019, and 2020 was going to be north-south. So I did that with Ben Davidson from Jeep Action Magazine in Australia. Excuse me, need to drink. And so the next one in the works is going to be a north-south. So like furthest point north on Cape York to the furthest point south. So my business, I like to say I'm transitioning, but I really love what I do, and it's been kind of a niche. Not a lot of other people do this type of thing, so I've been able to leverage it. Um, the segue to that, or the caveat to that, is that I need to do a better job of getting out there with the social media content, basically the YouTube content. Align myself with the right people, good video teams. When Rick came along on the East West Australia, and along with Sue Mead, but I really should have had a dedicated video team covering that, and we would have far. We did really good with the media, but a lot of it was print. Had about 120 pages of print media on that, but a lot of those magazines are gone. So the transition is, what is the new medium? And that's definitely YouTube.
It seems like we could go on for another couple hours on just media. Maybe we need to do a media show, but I wanted to talk on some other things that happened in 2022 that I think were big in our industry, namely acquisitions. We saw a lot of acquisitions happen in 2022, and a couple of very big ones. And Ian, I'll just jump to you on playing the game, but I mean, we saw. I mean, not only was it just the big Wheel Pros acquisition of Transamerica, which subsequently killed Transamerica and that brand that has been around in all of our lifetimes for quite a while. It's interesting to the point where the four-wheel parts stores now have independent ability to just buy whoever they want. And so we have a number of them now contacting us and signing up directly with us to buy product directly with us, which we would never do before because we didn't want to be sucked into the Trans-American world, hurricane and so now they're working directly with us. It's just a big change, but we saw that. We saw Randy's Worldwide with the acquisition of Icon, Dynatrack, and Carly, all amazing brands, which was quite an amazing thing to see. And it happened, interestingly enough, very quietly. Like they didn't come out with massive press releases saying, "Look what we did, la di da di da." It was kind of like, "Oh, that happened." And there were several. I don't know if there was any others I'm missing this year, but Ian, from your standpoint, like where do you see acquisitions? I mean, comment on the acquisitions that happened and how changes happened in 22, and what do you see in 23?
So just the acquisitions that you mentioned are obviously the only ones in our space, but because of the fact that, I own the production company that makes multiple shows for Motor Trend and other entities, we know of other acquisitions. In the hot rod world, there was probably another 20 companies swallowed up by Holly Brands
Right.
International. They're at like
Right.
84 brands.
Huge.
It is now. But I think for those of us who've been in this game long enough, we've seen this before. This happened 20 years ago. We saw these massive acquisitions, and then slowly some of those brands would peel out when they were deemed unprofitable, and then those big acquisitions kind of broke down again. And I think we're in the bubble of that once again. I think we got these big acquisition teams moving in. What it means in my world is pretty simple. It means that what was once 84 marketing departments is now one. And that means that marketing department now has a much smaller budget to advertise with, and they do things differently. And you have to adjust and adapt for that. The people who I think need to be nervous in 2023 with acquisitions are your big, large retailers, standalone retailers, like your Four-Wheel Parts, your Summit Racings, your JAGs, your retailers that are basically just moving parts from one warehouse to another warehouse to your house. I think they're going to. I think 2023 and 2024 for them is going to be a wake up when they find out that a lot of these acquisitions all of a sudden turn around and say, you know what? I think we're just going to open our own retail branch and sell directly to our consumers. And I think that's going to be what we see a lot of in the next 2 years.
Do you think that's good for consumers or bad for consumers?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the reality is this is what used to be the direction for the consumer to get to your product was simple. They would go to metalcloak.com and look at your parts. I would argue nowadays that your website is not the front door of your company anymore. It's your social media, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your Facebook, and then the that's the front store of your virtual store, in my opinion. And then your website becomes the secondary store. So they're going to see you first on social or some type of searchable social like YouTube, and then they're going to come in to buy. They're going to come into the back room to buy. I think more people want to buy directly from the manufacturer. I think fewer people want to buy from online retailers. I think, as Greg pointed out and Chris pointed out, people like to buy from people they know. And I've talked to a few manufacturers. I won't name them, but there's a couple manufacturers who went direct to consumer, but to protect their dealer network, they were 15% higher than you could buy at a dealer, and they still sold 100 times more product than they thought they would sell, because people wanted to buy directly from that person. I think that people like to do that. They want to buy from a person, quote, which is a company. And so I think the dealers are unfortunately suffering from that, as well as the retailers. So is it good for the consumer? I would argue yes, because they're dealing directly with the manufacturer, not through a third party. And is it better for the manufacturer? I would also say yes, because you're getting the data of who's actually buying your products, instead of relying on a third party to tell you, oh, these lift kits sold. Oh, hey, this guy sent this suspension kit back. I don't know why, but we got to refund his money, and so you lost the sale. Sorry, we lost half the bolts and shipping, so you're out the product. I apologize. Whereas if someone buys it directly from you, you know what's going on, and you can talk to them and find out what's the issue, solve it yourself versus trying to solve it through a third party.
It's interesting when you have a company so Rugged, we are set up retail, dealer, distribution, OEM. So we do it all. So, and I've been really, really good at doing it all. And the thing is this, 2020, 2022, we had incredible dealer growth. Okay. A couple facts with that is, why are we having dealer growth? So we came up with a dealer plan for us so when we run a special, our dealers are getting an incredible margin on the backside of things. So they're leveraging my marketing. So now that's bridged the gap. They want me to special. They want me to do this. They want me to draw a lot of attention to it, because they're still making their points on the backside. Okay. A lot of companies that went direct didn't do that. Okay. They're not doing that. So you can bridge the gap on all of it. Okay. You just got to do it the right way. So that's one thing we've been really, really good at managing. I look at our dealer growth and our retail growth. It's interesting how I'm growing in both sides of it, but you got to do it the right way. You got to give your dealers enough margin, but enough time. I love the fact when we're going to do a big special, and I give them a month ahead of time and tell them this is what we're going to be doing. So when we go bang and we hit that big time special, that once a year, our Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and our phone's ringing off the hook and everything else, but our dealers are loving it because their customers are calling them and says, can you match their price? And they say, no problem. So as long as
I got a question.
As long as
jumping in here with Ian. Oh, sorry, Greg. I wanted to chime in on that. This is actually to Ian. So my experience with the retail side is that, and the consumer side is that consumers like to go to a shop that they know and they like to work with. If they're going to buy a MetalCloak suspension or a Rancho suspension or a set of tires, it's like they're going in. Trevor at WFO, they're down the road from me, but it's like I know countless people that go in, talk to Trevor, and he's like, they've got decades of experience building all types of Jeeps, from old Willys to brand new jails, and they go in and they trust what they say. So having those dealers as your partners on your side, not necessarily because, and I wouldn't reference 4 Wheel Parts this way, because they basically sold what they told their counter people would sell, what they were getting the biggest bonus on, but on the other side is like somebody that's actually really an expert. And you come in, it's like, hey, I've got this vehicle. What do you think I should use? I'm thinking suspension, bumper, a winch, some lights, maybe a rack for the back, and having those partners or those advocates on the retail side.
So, it's interesting on a fact that what you're saying about, yes, the dealers having the knowledge, but COVID changed something for the dealers. Okay. The COVID changed something. People are at home. People are doing their research. People were installing their own things. So that changed a lot for the dealer. We're seeing that side starting to come back on the dealer side. So how I'm monitoring is this, I call every kit that's sold. So when somebody registers their kit, I call it whoever they bought it from. And then what I do is this. I've been noting to say, did you install it? How's it working? If they say, no, I had somebody install it, who installed it for you? And then I go into, if they say that dealer, I'm putting notes in it. So I do something to bridge the gap with the dealer. So I did something this year so say if I have a customer that had a great install by so-and-so dealer in whatever state, I call up that dealer and say, hey, listen, I had a customer that was super happy with the kit that he bought from me and had you install it. I'm putting a $100 bonus on your account. I own that dealer now. He is just like, you're going to do what? And I said, you know what? Hey, thank you. You made a happy customer. You're making us look good, so I'm supporting you. So we're thinking outside the box on everything and doing things like that. It's a lot of work. You got to have people call. You got to have people do this. I demand my people. We're going to make phone calls. We're going to personalize the company. I want to say one thing about acquisitions. You're saying, because man, all the acquisitions that are crazy. You know what's interesting about the acquisitions are a lot of times it's companies. A friend of mine got acquired. He had a small company. He was about an $8 million company, and he was stressed. He was pushed. He didn't know how to take it to the next level. A lot of acquisitions have happened that way. You know, a good friend of mine, John Spar, his family was founders of B&M. That became Holly and everything else. I know about them and went through all their acquisitions and everything that they did and selling and everything else. And, you know, it's interesting. We all started out, Rugged started in its garage. I love what I do, and I'm excited about taking it to the next level. Well, you know what? When you have that kind of business, you know, it shows in your product, in your employees, and what you're doing. A lot of these acquisitions happen. I had one of my original companies. I started Avcom, and I sold that business, and it didn't take long for it to just go down in a ball of flames because you don't have the passion. You don't have the people that drive it behind it. You don't have that. So, man, I'm like, I look at all these acquisitions happening in the industry, and I'm like, game on. Because for me, I just see opportunity for that company that's strong, that has good leadership, that still has that passion behind it. You know, just, man, there's so much opportunity because I haven't seen a lot of the acquisitions that have been successful. I have seen some acquisitions. A friend of mine that with PRP Seats, okay, the acquisition of their company, it actually went really well because just they needed the funding, they needed the infrastructure, they needed the website building, they needed to do this, and they stayed on to make sure that it furthered the company for a long period of time.
Well, that's the key. Like that was the key with PRP is that Aaron's still involved, right?
Yeah.
He's still involved to this day, and he still has a passion for it. And it was with a great group. But that's what's kind of interesting, like the acquisitions with Wheel Pros and Transamerican, and just how they've kind of disassembled everything, and now they put G2 is within Terraflex. I think Poison Spider is still on the table. I haven't seen any changes there, but last I heard, there was a potential for it being sold off, and they're kind of being slow with that process because they're trying to decide what they want to do. G2 was actually on the table for a brief moment, and then they decided to suck it into Terraflex. So the question becomes then, these kind of acquisitions where you're rolling up all these companies, Bestop still in the acquiring phase, and they're still looking for more opportunities. Randy's looking for more opportunities. They're all looking for more opportunities to keep buying these small independent companies. It's almost like we need to have these independent, association companies that are just going to battle to stay independent because we have no desire to be sold, right? We get the calls all the time. We get the letters all the time. We get the inquiries all the time, both from legitimate and illegitimate groups.
Well, and like Greg said,
for the consumer,
like Greg said, oh, sorry. Like Greg said, though, it takes those key people to be involved in those acquisitions because they can scoop up a good company, and then that company just takes a dive because the people behind it aren't the right people. And I mean, I've known a lot of those guys personally as well that all of a sudden they're bought and then the desire is gone and they don't like the new quote unquote owner, and there's not a lot of organization and nobody knows where they stand. So I do think it takes a special kind of person and good leadership, really strong leadership, in order to make these successful.
Right. Well,
but Corey, I think it's also the exact opposite of what you just said. Sometimes, Corey, I think the reality is you look at Greg as a perfect example. He is basically a pit bull in that company at Rugged Radios. I can't imagine trying to fit Greg into a corporate culture fit that was if someone's going to acquire Rugged, it's going to be a very large venture capital firm with a lot of rules and regulations that's probably not going to fit. I think a lot of the times when we see these companies that get acquired and the original ownership doesn't stick around, sometimes I look at that as it was a bad decision from that ownership to go through with the acquisition because they knew their personality type was not meant to be in a corporate culture. So they shouldn't have signed up for that. And I think a lot of them think they look at it as like, this is great. Like people who own businesses own business. That's a personality type that starts a business. And I own my own business. Greg owns his own business. If you own a business, there's a personality type. You're not, most of us who are successful are not meant to work for somebody else. And when we're forced into that hole, that's, I think, what happens with some of these acquisitions with these original owners. All of a sudden they're stuffed into, oh man, you mean I got to do this? I got to fill out expense reports. I got to answer these. I'm not doing that. I'm out because I never did it before. And I think that's where you see a lot of failures in acquisition. It's just not a good fit, and it wasn't a good fit from jump.
Yeah, we saw that with our great friend Larry McRae. The very dramatic exit he had after 1 year. 2-year agreement. He didn't last. It was like, I'm done. You guys go screw off.
I wouldn't last a month under somebody's direction. I just can't do it.
Yeah, if we ever sell, it's a one. They the only person they'd probably want to keep is me because my two partners they're not going to want them around, and I'm not. I'm like I'm done. Why would I want to stick around? I don't want to.
It's not just our world. If you look, I always tell people, if you want to know what's going to happen next in the automotive aftermarket, you just have to look outside the automotive aftermarket. We're like 7 years behind mainstream everything. Like that's just the reality. when you look at companies that get acquired outside of our space, like big companies that get acquired, like Kodiak Case that gets acquired by General Mills, or that's a bad example, but when you deal with these large companies that get acquired by larger companies, the founders usually never stick around because the personality type doesn't jive right. It just doesn't fit. And like Matson said, no, you're right. You're going to last a week, and then you're going to be like, no, I'm out. Thank you. I'm not filling out.
It's usually by design. It's a retention. They'll come in with a 2 or 3 year retention for the CEO, the founder, just for that transition.
Yeah, those retention, the performance bonuses.
Yes, that's it. It's the performance bonuses, and I have several friends that have done exactly that. And it's like they, on the sale of their companies, they were just like, I've got basically 2 or 3 years, and I never have to work again. But what I want to do is I want to go start another company in the non-related, non-competing industry, or product line. And they left by design, and they're going to stick out their contract, and they'll go for the performance bonuses, and get on with it and be happy. But it's
like our friends over at Nacho Lighting, right?
But we look at something. So the purpose of our talk today is, for instance, like how does mergers and acquisitions affect us? Okay. And how is it going to affect MetalCloak? How is it going to, affect Ian? How is it going to affect you, Chris, and everything? How is it going to affect Rugged? And I look at this, all these acquisitions and everything that's happening. Like I said, I've seen the trends of things go through, and it's funny how few very successful ones, or an acquisition because they wanted the part numbers, they wanted the search engine, optimization side, because that's going to help sell, 2 other companies that they have. Merging things into one. But how is it going to affect me, and how is it going to affect MetalCloak? I think we got some great opportunity when things mergers and acquisitions happen, because so many of the owners and the personalities are out. They're not there, and you become into this big conglomerate, and then that way the focus isn't on just that company now. It's these 5 other brands that are now focused together, so you can't have individual focus on the Rugged brand product. And
right.
So I look at this for us, I'm just looking at opportunity. So I watch every time there's an acquisition and say, ooh, how can I take advantage of that?
Again, Bulldog. So, going on, and I think Corey, you actually wanted to cut in, but talking more about now 2022, and I think some of the big battles we had in 2022, which are still ongoing. There were some pretty good battles for land use and for land rights. And I think Greg, especially, you were involved, and it's been an ongoing battle. But the battle out in Oceano, which you've been heavily involved in the area and doing that and fundraising and stuff for it. You want to talk about what you've seen, Greg?
So a couple things. Yeah, we've with land use. So we've been heavily involved in Friends of Oceano Dunes, but we're in this weird time right now. Okay. We are in agenda driven time. We can't have a discussion about something. You just have people that want to argue, argue and yell their point. They don't want to discuss it.
You're wrong.
We can actually get down to discussing. So if we could get down to discussing things and going back and forth about it, man, it's just we could accomplish so much more. But we're like Friends of Oceano Dunes. We're supporting them. We're funding a lot of money to them, to this fight, because our Pismo Dunes, if we close it, it's closing a giant industry, not just dunes. That one set of dunes, more people visit Pismo Beach than Glamis. And people don't understand. They say there's no way, because the hundreds of thousands of people that are out at Glamis Thanksgiving and Halloween weekend. But Pismo's all year long. We're between 68 and 74 degrees here all year, and we're always nice. So, it's giant. And this one state park funds everything else. But now we're in this day and age of people are afraid to speak up. Okay? And that's you can't have a voice anymore, because if you have a voice, then you have agenda-driven group that's going to go after and try and ruin you. So you have the masses that are sitting back, not saying anything. We have this in government right now. Okay. You have the few that's demanding their view on it, and you have the lot that aren't saying anything. So I tell people, you got to be the bulldog. You got to be the pit bull. You got to be the guy. Don't be afraid to stand up. Now, be knowledgeable. Don't just stand up and yell to yell. Be knowledgeable. Have your points. Be smart about it, because we can manage it. If we come together, we can manage land use. Okay. There's a lot of problems happening. You know what? People pick up their trash. Man, that just bugs the crap out of me. We're fighting so hard for land use, but then you have a group that doesn't give a care about it, and it's just ruining all the hard work we're doing. So that's the battle we have. How do we come together, and how do we talk about it and communicate, not just yell and scream our points and not get anything done?
Yeah, calling people stupid, and
it doesn't get anybody anywhere.
We run in this big circle round and round and round, and it's a big issue.
Well, I find it's interesting with our community, and our community has always been great about that. Our community has been there to support each other, whether we're competitors or even if, a guy like Chris who goes in Toyotas, I mean, we can still treat him nicely.
Hey.
We can still welcome into the fold.
I got Jeeps.
But it is interesting. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the battle is on. So we saw recently as well in 2022, we saw the beginnings of another battle for Moab, one of which we've been basically told there's going to be a change. The question is, how dramatic is that change going to be? Chris, you were involved in that, weren't you?
No, I was not on the Moab side. No,
not on the Moab side. But you've been how many times have we fought for Moab in just the last 20 years?
So the land use thing is an ongoing battle. It started. I just did an article on my club's 60th anniversary, and I'm going back into the archives from the 60s, and they're talking about land use advocacy and what we call. I'm not going to ever call them environmentalists, because I consider myself an environmentalist, but I call them the anti-access crowd. And they've been coming on strong. Came in with Alan Cranston and S11, which was the California Desert so-called Protection Act in the late 70s, early 80s, and it just evolved. And that our advocacies are not going away. They're well funded, and well organized. So I really love hearing what Greg is talking about Oceano Dunes. It used to be called Pismo until the like Pismo Beach community decided they didn't want a OHV state park there, right, Greg?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
everybody started saying, okay, we're now Oceano Dunes. It's like, we're not going to give them the credit.
But you know, you said a point about the other side being very organized. It's not just about yelling and screaming for my rights to go out and four-wheel and off-road and Moab and everything. There, you know, some of those groups are extremely organized. You know what I say so many times, like Pismo, Oceano Dunes, it's going to be won or lost in court. I mean, it's right. Unfortunately, we're in that age, we're in that court age. Having a protest or having whatever, a rally or whatever you want to call it, to do and support and everything else, it's going to be won or lost in court. So if we were to unite and actually help fund and do things that, you know, for Friends of Oceano Dunes, Jim Sudi has devoted his life to it. And the amount of money he spends of his own money, not just fundraise money, to do this fight because he just feels passionate about it. I am so scared for the day that he says, I'm done. I'm tired of fighting. And
there's
that's
a lot of those old dudes
when
out
you win
there.
in court, the problem we have on our side is we win, and then we think that's the end of it. Whereas there's organizations who, okay, we lost, let's do it again. Okay, we lost, let's do it again until we can get it. Like there's no, there's no grand federal encapsulation that says this, you're done. Here it is. This is now public lands, and it shall ever be public lands. Right? They're just going to find another reason or another angle. I found it interesting with the Moab program, how many people really understood that we don't want you to just go in there and say, give me my land, give me my land, give me my land, I want to go wheeling, but to actually share stories. Like we did a big project, not only with Modern Jeeper, with a lot of other industry folks, promoting the fact that they need to go in and truly tell their story, their heartfelt story about Moab, whether it was about the future desire or past stories of what they did. And BLM really wanted that, because I think in this case, BLM didn't want to go down this path. They were being ordered to go down this path. And so they wanted to get as much ammunition for themselves, for lack of a better word, that helped them to be able to make the judgment that what is being requested by, in this case, the court, wasn't necessary. And they could go through and actually keep as much of it as open as possible. But it's because they had the passionate stories and not just a bunch of people screaming.
But you know what also needs to be done more than anything is I believe in this in the land use. I'm gonna Moab. Okay. What has been the issue of so many issues with Moab right now? UTVs, loud exhaust, people ripping around town. I mean, come on. If you want to go out and enjoy this, be a good steward. Okay. Be respectful. Okay. We got to find a balance, because what's happening in this world is we can't be respectful to each other. We have to just fight our position, and we're not going to consider anything else. Okay. I'm going to fight that. I'm going to off-road. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And that's final. Well, the thing is this, we got to live in this world together. So there's that balance of sometimes those bicycle riders going down the road that swerve into the road, man, it drives me crazy, but we got to figure out a way to live together. And that's we're not getting to the problems. We're not getting to the problem of how we're living together. We're just both fighting our positions, and who can fight the hardest is going to win. But we never talk about how do we come together with things. And I just think, man, the education, when I go down to the beach and I'm handing out trash bags to everybody who goes in and said, please pick up your trash. We're doing a trash cleanup in the next few weeks over here. And it's just like, how do you expect me to fight this? How do you expect me to fight all this and do this if you're not willing to help me? Well, if we could somehow come together as a community, I think we could have a much better land use fight. But we're just not together as a community, and we can't understand. It's okay not to agree, okay? But if you understand each other, you may not agree with what I have to say, but when we understand each other, now we can start talking about it.
That's right.
Let me just jump in here for a second, Matson.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So I want to basically talk to all of your viewers and listeners. Somebody mentioned BLM and Forest Service, and I've worked quite a bit with Tahoe National Forest on trail maintenance on Fordyce, Sierra Track Trail, on the Rubicon over the El Dorado side, reach out to your land managers. They've specifically told me, it's like, we want to hear from, we want to work with the users. When we get groups that want to come up and help with a project, that's how you get to know who your land managers are. That's how they get to know you. And that's how they will have a better understanding of you and a voice standing up for you when they have to go to the table and give reports back to their bosses and their bosses. Like, we've got to be involved. And you'll hear this from Matt at Tread Lightly and other organizations. Like, you just, as a user, we've got to be out there to the best of our ability, when we can, where we can, working with the government entities to let them know that, yeah, we're out there, we're taxpayers, we're using it, and we're being good stewards of the land. But you got to get involved. That's it. Reach out to them. They want to hear from us.
Well, that's exactly a good point. And maybe we can do something where we'll link on this episode some, where is there a central location of like where people can find the land manager? What's the best for them to find the local area land managers?
So your local BLM office, especially in Moab, that's the office there off of Main Street, and ask her who the land use manager is or the representative for that certain section if you're working on it, or just talk to them, open a dialogue. With your national forest, call your local national forest office. You don't want to call, corporate, which would be national. It's like, find out who your local office is with a Tahoe National Forest, El Dorado.
By the way, be polite, right? Be polite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Professional.
Now, Ian,
be professional.
Be professional. Ian, I wanted to go to you because you're in a unique position in that you're out there, and even though you love these Western lands that are open and public, you're also in Tennessee. And from that region out there's not a lot of public lands left for people. Now, Tennessee is interesting because you've got some good stuff down in the Southeast but you also have some private parks up there. But what do people on the East Coast it's kind of been our biggest challenge in the past. People on the East Coast, like, well, we don't have public land. So what the hell are you talking about? Why do I even care about fighting for Moab? Why do I even care about fighting for Oceana Dunes? That's this whole public land battle is this. You just guys all go private like we do. What do you see?
Yeah, I think it is a difference. I think the hardest part about it is the fact that, whether you want to admit it or not, 80% of the population lives on the East Coast. So the more people are on the East Coast. And yeah, where we are, we do have we have the majority of our sort of hardcore wheeling is mostly private. We do still have some public land, but we still fight the same fight like Greg's talking about. Even on private land, we fight, clean up your trash, take out your garbage, pack it in, pack it out. It's like Greg said, it's education. I think that there's a lot of East Coasters who are interested in the public land battle because a lot of them still have, that bucket list trip idea of, I want to go to Moab one day. I want to go to King of the Hammers one day. I want to go to Oceana Dunes. A lot of my friends have wheeled out west and they understand it. I think Greg's 100% right. I think, unfortunately, in the world that we live in right now, I think a lot of these decisions are made in the court. This isn't the 60s anymore, man. It's not sit-ins and flower power, man. It's lawyers and money. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I personally have donated money to the fight for Oceana Dunes because I've been there one time and I thought it was an amazing place. And I have submitted letters when they've asked for open call outs for people to write a letter to their public forums. I've donated money to Friends of Oceana Dunes. I donate money to all the land use organizations out on the West Coast because I like to go out there and go wheeling. And I think we all know what has to be done. But I also agree with Chris. I think we're not together as a group. And I think that's what has to happen. And to me, it's never more telling that we're not together as a group when Utah announced that you need to have a license to ride a side-by-side if you're under a certain age, or if you're new to if you're visiting the state, you must pass a driver qualification. And that created so much internet backlash. And you don't tell me how to drive my side-by-side where I'm. And but at the same time, we all say it. It's just like Greg said. It's the side-by-sides that are, they're the newest wheelers. They need the most education. But then the minute that someone tries to put into place some type of education or forced education, we get all upset about it. And I get it. No one likes to, this America, we don't want we're more of a don't hit me with the stick, give me the carrot type of personality. But I think that's what has to happen, unfortunately. And I agree. I think we as a group have to get together more. And I'm not a big fan of side-by-sides, but I certainly don't want to take away someone's right to ride a side-by-side. But I think that we as a group need to work together more with education and understanding what needs to happen to keep these places open.
Well, the interesting part about that is all the clubs that exist, and very few of them. Like even in California, we have we have Cal 4 Wheel. Chris is very familiar with Cal 4 Wheel. A lot of different events. You're very familiar with Cal 4 Wheel, Greg. A lot of events up and down the state. Lots of activity. But I see consistently, and I'll be very vocal about this. I was in politics for years. All right. And I understand like true politics, like the battles happening at the Capitol. And when you see infighting and politics within just organizations that are all supposed to have the same goal, or politics infighting between we're all supposed to be like different clubs fighting against each other, right? The challenge is we don't unify. If we don't unify and we're fractured as organizations, we're fractured as groups, and we're fractured as individuals, that's what allows these other groups to say, oh, they're wasting money against each other. We're going to go do something. Cal 4 Wheel, I still remember as a teenager in high school, if you didn't have a Cal 4 Wheel sticker on the side next to your fender on your rig, you were not an off-roader. I'm sorry. You were not a wheeler if you didn't have it. Total loser, right? And
Loser.
Yeah. And so that was it. But these days, it's like, maybe you got a Cal 4 Wheel sticker, you don't. Maybe you have your own little. So there was a definite failure in that leadership in maintaining the strength they had for this state. And now we have a lot of different fractured organizations all trying to do stuff where Friends of Oceano Dunes has to, on their own, go and fight for Oceano Dunes instead of getting the power of a full state organization to go do it, or even a full national organization like BRC or any of the other groups to go do it. Too much fractioning, too much groups trying to get the piece for them. Tread lightly, great organization. BRC, very active. But every one of these groups are trying to get their piece of their money they need to fund their organization to go do their activity. And that is not the focus that needs to be. And I think that's the failure. Somehow in 2023 and beyond, we need to unify that so that every group is working towards a goal of trying to save these projects, not just keep the organization surviving and be able to pay their executive director.
So when you look at something,
and that was a lot. If you remember when United 4-wheel drive came out, I mean, that was supposed to be the national organization with all of the member organizations or associations. And like you said, there's been a lot of hiccups, ups and downs, and a little bit of fighting over control, so to speak. Cal 4 Wheel, I've been a member for 40 years. I agree. It's been back and forth. There's a lot of it has to do with funding. As you mentioned, it's like they have had two environmental affairs or resource consultants full time. That all they do is monitor what is going on, and it's a constant challenge. Not only for the funding, but also for qualified people to do that, because it's not a high-paying job. It's something that they do for the passion. And Greg, you probably worked with a number of the natural resource consultants and Oceano. But I do believe that it's important for the enthusiasts, the viewers, to be a member of your local organization, because strength is in numbers. And whether it's Cal 4 Wheel or one of the East Coast organizations, BRC, which is Blue Ribbon Coalitions, like, you may join and say, well, what do I get out of it? It's like, okay, I get this little newsletter, and that might be a digital newsletter, but what you're doing is you're being part of a greater cause, and that is giving those organizations, when run correctly, can stand at the table on the legal table on land use issues. I mean, it's a huge deal. It's not going away.
So one thing you said,
hey, Matson,
about
hey, Matson.
Yeah. Wait. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say maybe it's time for SEMA to slide into this fight with us, because if you want to see someone who can sway political opinion in a heartbeat, it's an organization like SEMA. And maybe it's time for all these individual land use organizations to lean heavily on a giant organization like SEMA to say, hey, break open that war chest and help us fight this fight. And then you've got the money, like Greg is saying, to win this thing in the court of law. And you need to look no further than SEMA's battle to keep race cars alive as to someone who can bring in a lot of money to the table and shut down some bad ideas in a heartbeat at the federal level. And maybe it's time for SEMA to start playing in this game as well.
Mhm.
Well, that takes that would take the responsibility of much larger corporate organizations that happen to have executives who are involved in SEMA, who have the time to be on the SEMA boards or the SEMA groups or the SEMA sub boards or the SEMA truck groups, right? All those bigger organizations, the Hollies of the world, that have to go in and say, hey, we're going to be involved and we want this to be active, because the fight's not going to happen from the Gregs at Rugged and the Matsons at MetalCloaks. I mean, I was actually thinking about being part of SEMA's marketing education program this next year just for the fun of it. But there's, who amongst us has time to sit on these boards and sit in these long meetings? Those groups have to be involved. Greg, you were going to say?
The thing is this, Chris, you said something earlier about like get involved, everybody call your representative and do that stuff. Hey, yeah, great. How many people are going to do that? Okay.
People are lazy.
What I look at is this, trying to get people to do that and to really get the point across and be knowledgeable about the point. Most people are just not going to take the time to be knowledgeable. But how can we support the people like Dell Albright? Okay. I love Dell. He is a huge advocate, land use advocate, and that's what his job is. Okay. Well, what I do is this. I start at the ground level. You want to support land use? Now, my group that goes out off-roading, I'm going to make sure that they are being respectful off-roading, that they're picking up their trash. Hey, if you own an exhaust company, come up with an exhaust that's an 87 or 90 dB, whatever it's supposed to be for Moab, so you don't have a side-by-side with a mega loud exhaust that's waking up everybody in town. Start with that. How do you make products to do that? I would look at that in support of that. So I'm going to support land use. I'm going to start at the ground level, because I'm going to give them not a reason to have a loud side-by-side ripping around town, because my side-by-side, my exhaust is quiet.
Or what about the sound companies that put 27 speakers on a side by side and want to have the loudest rig in the world?
It's like, come on, if I'm going to go ground level education, the group that I'm with, and you know what I hope? I hope that one of those people are going to take their group when they're out and do ground level education. If you want to keep doing this, we got to do it. I'd love to say that and get it to spider out, and keep going. If you want to support land use, that is something that everybody can do right now. Okay. Because most of the people aren't going to call, but most of the people can say, you know what? I'm going in this housing area. I'm going to turn my stereo down. I'm going to back out of the throttle and I'm going to cruise. Everybody can do that. If they really want to help, they can do that. So if we can start education at ground level, I think it'd be great. And wait a minute, let's talk about industry there. Okay. If I was a stereo company, I might even have like a mute or low volume mode. That's the mode of I'm in neighborhood mode. Click. And it does that. Or that exhaust system, or that DOT set of tires that everybody's going to want to run because I need to conform to some street legal capacity on it. I don't know. I look at
whoa, take it easy, California boy. Street legal that's just guidelines. That's just guidelines, okay? You keep that street legal stuff over there in California. This is Tennessee. We consider those just another man's opinion. That's not, those aren't laws.
Well, and I think a lot of this has to come from, if you think about this group, think about the people that we know in the industry. It's a very aging group as well. And who's going to be around?
Who are you talking about?
Who's the next generation? Who's the young guy that's got a bunch of energy? As we all get older and older, we have to educate the youngest of our groups, because somebody's got to take the reins. Somebody's got to be responsible. But it is, like Greg said, I mean, it's a matter of respect. And we don't have a lot of that amongst anybody anymore. We seem to have lost that. But, let's talk a little bit about what each of you guys are looking forward to in 2023. And personally, like what's coming next for you? What's going on in your world? And let's go from there.
Start with you, Chris.
Start with me. I like it. It was always nice when I was, having a C. I'm always close to the front of the list when they're going alphabetically.
Well, on my layout, see, I'm doing a different layout. You guys might all be seeing like just the big screen where everybody's popping up. I've got my layout has all 5 of the screens going, so it be for the final thing. So I'm looking at you just in order.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, been working on a project for Australia, heading down to Mexico. I got a trip for Darren Skilton and the Snow Rally. They call it the Adventure Raid, and that backs up day like back to back with Nora. So I'll be down at the Nora Mexico 1000 again. It's really a bummer because I'm going to land at near Cabo or San Jose del Cabo on my birthday. So it's always a bummer to be at Baja on my birthday. So I'm probably going to try to maybe take 10 or 14 days to make my way back to the border. Yeah, so a couple things in the works. Hoping I can get back down to Panama this year to continue on with the project I've been working on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. That's just awesome. I think I just want to tag along with Chris. I'm just gonna be
I
your
make it all up.
assistant. I'm gonna be your assistant just to be like, I just want to be your intern. I'll be your bitch. Just tell me what to do. I just want to hang out.
I'm going to keep that in mind, Matson. But, yeah, I make all this stuff up. It's all smoke and mirrors and yeah.
Yeah. Well, every time, see, hey, how's it going? Oh, just doing some stuff. Well, I was out in this country, and this country, and this country, and half of us are like, what are you doing, Matson? Well, I made it across town today.
That's a plus.
That's a plus.
So I'll throw another one out there. I'm really excited because you guys, at least everybody on the call here, probably know that I was able to grab one of the Expedition de las Americas CJ7s, one of Mark Smith and that crew's 5 vehicles, which I was just like so flippin' thrilled on it. Fred Williams sent me from Dirt Every Day, sent me a text 2 years ago now, and had a picture of this vehicle on Craigslist. And I was like, you gotta be flipping kidding me. So I knew the vehicle because it was actually one of the 3 that we shipped back to South America in 1998 for the 20th anniversary. And I was like, holy crap. I got on, sent him a text on Craigslist, nothing back in about 10 hours. I'm like, oh, great. So I found him on Facebook and I said, Shane, call me. And within the next day I was down at his house picking up the vehicle. So this is super unique. I've going through the whole thing, leaving all the dents and the patina and the sheet metal alone.
Cool.
But basically it's like a mechanical conservation project. So it's pretty exciting. That was
That's awesome. When you're building content around that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing on the ModernJeeper channel. We've basically got the first 2 intros. Just before I jumped on this call, I'm actually working on. We went down and we rebuilt the both axles, AMC 20 in the back and Data 30 up front. Rebuilt those with new axles and Eaton true tracks, and yeah, it's fun. It's a crazy project. I pulled the front Data 30 apart and I had 2 different brake rotors side to side. Like whoever had been working on it was like, what did they do here?
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Greg?
What are you
looking forward to in 2023?
So what I look forward to in 2023, a couple things. On business side, the thing is this: how do I create content that makes the decision-making process easier for the customer? Okay, because it's all about that, making the decision for the customer easier, making it an easier form of checkout, so he can make that decision and he can run with that decision and be confident about his decision. So working on a lot of that. We're looking heavily on price. Look at a new UTV, $60,000. Okay. Look at the prices have elevated up so much. I mean, what is a new Jeep now? I think I paid 57 plus tax and license for a new Gladiator for my son. I mean, and a new UTV is 60,000. And then most people are okay by the time you do the add-ons. I saw a company having 105,000 for a new bolt-on UTV. And I'm like, okay, now we're losing a lot of space for accessories. We're losing our space with economy where we're at. So now how can we produce products, combine products, maybe increase manufacturing, lowering costs? Because I'm not the company, new year, new prices. Okay. 2023, I haven't raised my prices in years, and we're not raising prices. In fact, I'm going to come out with something that I'm probably going to lower prices with. And the thing is this, so how can I make that customer make that decision easier? Okay, the years of, okay, I've got that premium product at this high price, and next year it's going to be more expensive again. I think those days are over because your base price to get into projects is so high. So now you have to take a look at, but that content, like what Ian is talking about, content is most important. And the content can be just a static picture. It could be a video. It could be, whatever. It's multi-channel platforms, YouTube, website. If you're a company and you're not looking at your website right now, I'm doing a whole revamp again because the guys kind of went crazy on sections, and I'm like, listen, you've cluttered it too much. You haven't made it easy. We've got to have the right keywords. So for me, what I'm looking forward to 2023 is I've got to be on the gas, but I'm on it. Personally, 2023, game on. I train in a world famous MMA gym called The Pit. John Hackelman, that's where Chuck Liddell was from. And my close friend Glover Teixeira is fighting for his light heavyweight title this Saturday. So he was light heavyweight title. He's trying to get his title back. Oldest fighter in UFC history, 43 years old and on top of his game. So
can you beat him?
Yeah, I can't. He's a big badass and more badass than I am. But the one thing that I encourage people on is the one mentality that I go through in everything, and I'm spreading the word about this. Okay, you're never your best. Always learn, always grow. You can never say I am the best. Okay, you can't ever be to that point. So my motto with everything is this: learn. When you think you are the best, that means you're not receptive to learning. Okay, so personally, 2023 is I'm pushing that. You're never your best. You can always learn. You can always get better, and you can always grow. If you say you're the best, that's when you turn off from learning.
Very well said. And like I said, every time I have a conversation with Greg, I feel like he motivates me. I want to see a line of motivational posters come out from Rugged.
Right.
What's interesting is
hang in there, baby.
Yeah, I got away from like some motivational videos and stuff on Facebook and things like that because I was just getting burned out on Facebook, burned out on some of the social media and everything else. So, when Ian brings up good content, okay, you have to decide what is good content. And because a lot of people are just getting burned out on certain things, or so that's the interesting factor to talk about is that content and how you're going to create good content, or what you think is good content just doesn't work. But if you marry that content with the rest of the company behind it, you can generally have a recipe that works well.
That's awesome. Ian, my friend, what's 2023 going to be like for you?
Well, let's see. So I'll do the same thing that Greg did. So I'll do a professional and personal. So professional, we're about to break ground and we're doubling the size of our studios here in Little Mount Pleasant, Tennessee, because we've got so much business to come in, video and, like Greg said, content wise. Because as I mentioned before, we have a lot of companies now that are saying, "Hey, we're not gonna just be in a TV show. We want to be a TV show." And when I say TV show, I mean like anything. It could be YouTube. It could be your own website. I just call it TV because that's just kind of what we refer to it as. But yeah, so we're about to break ground, put up another Miracle Trust building here on our 3-acre plot of land, double our studio space. We see a lot of, as I said before, we see a lot of companies focusing on getting high quality content made, and they're coming to us because we've done it for so long. So that's good. So we're busy on that end. I see, we're doing another season of 4-wheeler. So we've got that coming down the pipe with Discovery Channel and Motor Trend. And then just a bunch of cool trucks. I'm finally going to finish my Jeep Comanche that I've been meaning to finish for 5 years now. So it'll be at Easter Jeep this year. So that's a 2023 goal. Personally, 2023 goal, I'm getting a raise this year because my son finishes college. So I don't have to write those checks anymore. And he did it right. He's graduated and he's already has a job before he graduates. So he's going into supply chain management for a very, very large company. So they've offered him a job already. So that's
awesome.
personally, that's it. And then and to celebrate, we're all going to Europe. Me, my wife, and my son. We're going to do a couple weeks in Europe, where we're going to do half the trip as a family, and then he's going to go do half the trip himself, backpack around and do that Canadian Europe thing. And we're going to do Paris and Iceland on the way home. And
Cool.
yeah, and then before we know it, it'll be SEMA, and I'll be saying, why isn't this car built? So that's my 2023 in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Well, throw you in there too, Corey. I mean, we talk about this every week, but what Corey and Jessy, what are your goals for 2023?
It's interesting. We've had the last last probably 2-3 weeks have been very challenging of ourselves, and to kind of put what does 2023 look like. We came up with our event list and what our plan is to be at where. So that was kind of the first step, and we're going to be really busy this year. But like Greg said, like Ian said, and Chris, we have to do things better and differently than we've done in the past. And there is that burnout thing that Greg talks about with social media wise. So it's how do you change? How do you change, and how do you be so creative that anymore it seems like everybody's just copying each other. Yeah. So it's very hard to be unique. And, we happen to have a very unique product in the CTI trailer, and a very unique way for us to touch people. And with Modern Jeeper Adventures, I really enjoy the guiding side of what we do. And I really like that. So, we're very fortunate. We get to travel, which I still enjoy. I get to do it with somebody I enjoy being with, and we work for a great company. So we've got some of the checks already marked off the box. 2023 is going to be busy, but we got to do things. We got to do it a little bit different and be a little bit better, and just be here, I guess, is my best way to put it. We go to some events and it's a big mad dash, and maybe just slow that down a little bit and remember that it's not just content. It's got to be good content. And there's a big difference, because everybody's out there with their phones creating content. That doesn't go very far. And I don't enjoy that side of it. So I do enjoy taking and creating good stuff, but we very rarely have the time. So we have to make the time to do it.
Well said. Well said.
Let me jump back in here one thing. And this goes for anybody watching, anybody listening, all of us. It's like, life is too short to do stuff that you don't want to do. It's like I think we're all in great positions, and seems like we all love our jobs, so to speak, our careers, our vocations. But it's like, man, it's like Corey just said, it's like, take time to slow down a little bit, because think about it. If 30 years ago, would any of us have dreamed that we'd be doing what we're doing now? We would have only have dreamed of it, I think. And now you look around, you're like, wow, this is reality. This is just what we do. I mean, sometimes you have to stop and actually look at that, and then jump back into the Greg Pitbull stage. It's like, I got to work harder, faster, better than anybody else. It's like, but that's, I think that's who we all are. Yeah, but you got to slow down sometimes. It's like, what? It's like finishing up after the NORA race. My wife's flying down to Cabo, and we're just gonna take a couple weeks and make our way back to the border, camp on our favorite beaches, go to our favorite fish taco stands, drink some beers, have a good bottle of tequila. And I'll be making content while I'm doing that, of course. That's just occupational hazard. But got to slow down once in a while too.
So Corey, I have one thing for you as we finish this. So you're talking about what you do, the CTI trailer. You're in this unique area, and of you're filming content. Okay, but on the other hand, I look at a different approach with you. Okay, you're touching all these people. You have the CTI trailer. You have their vehicle in front of you. You see what their build is. You see what their bumpers, everything else. You're talking to them. You're engaging with them. You're out on an adventure with them. So you're seeing everything in action, what their struggles are, what is. You're actually a unique ability to come back and say, Greg, this is the kind of content you need to do. Okay. So if you took your approach and changed it a little bit and said, okay, I'm going to come back to the businesses and show them that this is the content and the education you need to start giving your customer, not just you filming the content, because it's very hard for you to say film content for me while you're out there. But if you can tell me what I need to do, because you're seeing my customer struggle on the ground level, the pluses, the minuses, or whatever is happening, oh man, that's invaluable. For a
Gotcha.
business.
I can do that for you, just for you though.
Yeah, just for me. Hey, Matson, it's okay. It's okay. You don't need it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's no big deal. You know, it's
because Matson's already the best. So,
you know, it's, you guys talk about getting out and stuff and taking the time. And I had to remind myself, my kids and my family showed up yesterday with lunch. And so we went into the diner, and which is just a semblance of what, you know, Rugged Radios and their whole amazing setup is, but little diner, and sat in there and had lunch. I'm so used to getting lunch and sitting at my desk and just plowing through it because it's food, because of other things I want to do, that I sat down with my family there and I plowed through my lunch, the same way I normally do. And I had to stop and like realize I'm having a time. There's a moment here, and I got to take that moment and stop. It's not just about, because I was like, okay, done. I'm going to get back to what I got to do. Like, whoa, wait a second. My family's here. They bought lunch. They've sit down. My 3 kids, my wife, we're all sitting there and trying to enjoy that moment. And we have to take those moments and breathe in and enjoy what's around us. And then we can get back to kicking ass. But we got to take those moments.
Yes.
With that, wow, this has been a great episode. This has been amazing. And, you know, there's a lot. I'm sure we could all do this probably weekly and have the besties show and be able to just talk about all the kind of things going on in our world. And maybe we should do that, Corey. Maybe we should do like a quarterly version of this instead of just annual.
Good idea.
This week, this is a great group. And we also need to go make sure that we program each of these guys on again this year, just because there's a lot to talk about, and individually about progress they're doing, and some of the stuff Chris is doing, and of course Ian. And I think Ian's just going to be our producer for the ModernJeeper channel. And and I mean, he's building a bigger studio, so we'll just take 1/4 of that bigger space, a big sign there, and just do it all. And then of course, you know, and Greg has always been a great partner, and Rugged Radio has been a great partner. I just heard that Rugged Radios donated radios to Pora for our program, and for the Pora board, which is the post wildfire OHV recovery alliance that I'm on the board of. So you're a great supporter, and we really appreciate it. With all that being said, Corey, Jesse, any last words before we sign off this amazing episode?
I think we're good. You know, just to be a part of this group and to be able to listen to you guys. You know, I'm still the new guy into this group here, so it's pretty special for me to be a part of it. And thanks for you guys taking the time.
Chris, how do people get a hold of you?
Should I get my phone number out to the world?
Whatever you want to tell people.
You know what? I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I usually don't get about my website, because unlike what Greg coached us on, my website is about 15 years old and I haven't touched it. But they can email me at chris@adventurearchitects.com. And so that's adventurearchitects with an S on the end.com.
Perfect.
Cool.
Love to hear from people.
Greg, how about you? How can people get a hold of you?
real easy, ruggedradios.com. Phone numbers all over the website. We actually answer our phone, and I'm here most of the time. And, you know, I have people call in and ask for me. I love to talk to my customers. I love to do that. Not always do I process orders and do all that stuff. I will send it down to somebody down south. But, you know, connecting with the companies, or connecting with the consumers, everything on that level, I just love it. So I tell people to call anytime and get a hold of me. Like I say, website 888-541-7223. You know, like I say, I'm very accessible, very available. And you know what? Doing a group like this, it's really good because powers and numbers. Okay. If you work together, powers and numbers, you want to be success. You know, if you truly want success, you'll want to share it with others. And if you all have that common goal of success, you know, working with Corey, going over and saying, Greg, you need this content. Then I can go to Ian and say, okay, because not always have I had a good direction with Ian to say, hey, Ian, this is the exact content I need. So maybe we can start doing that a lot better. So now we can start interfacing all of it together to say, okay, you're giving me another perspective, and I can utilize Ian to do this or Chris for that. And working together on it is invaluable. So 2023, we just work together on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out that his facility is so big that when he said that he sends it down south, it wasn't I don't send it downstairs. He said it sends it down south. Ian, how about you? What's any last words?
No, easiest way to get a hold of me, man, slide into my DMs, Ian from Big Tire Garage on all the social medias, or the production company, digitallug.com or bigtiregarage.com. That's probably the easiest way to find me. Easy peasy.
I would like to point out that it's getting so dark where Ian's at that it's just like it's like fading away. All there's a face.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you all. Hey, Modern Jeepers, thanks for joining us. You can, of course, reach me at Matson@MetalCloak.com, Corey at MetalCloak.com. Blah, blah, blah. With all the drinking I've been doing, I still can't talk. And, of course, Jessy at MetalCloak.com. And, of course, you can find us on Modern Jeeper Adventures. We do have our Death Valley adventure coming up, and there are spaces available. Then Moab Adventure will be going live. And who knows, maybe one of these great guests will be joining us on these trips. So
there you go.
You guys are always welcome. Every guest ever on a Modern Jeeper show is welcome to join us. Death Valley in the spring, and then Moab in Memorial Weekend. And, of course, ModernJeeper.com and ModernJeeperForum.com. You guys know it all. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you on the trails.
Cheers, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Great, guys. We'll talk to you soon.